When we talk about climate, we try to separate that from the weather. So the weather is why today might be a little bit weird compared to the way it was yesterday, or tomorrow a different front's coming and we'll go from rainy today to sunny tomorrow. When we talk about climate, we're really talking about things that are going to happen over and over again, like how the summer is always warmer than the winter on average.
So the interesting thing about climate change is that it's not one thing. The reason why something called climate change took so long to be actually even named is because everybody was sort of looking at local weather patterns in their neck of the woods. So some people looking at the El Nino, some people looking at the monsoon patterns, and some people looking at, I don't know, ice melting in the Himalayas. And so it was only as the capacity to put all these different bits of information together in models that something like climate even emerged as a global phenomenon. And that made it possible for people to see the radical changes that have been happening, say, in the last 100, 150 years.
So we're talking about gradual changes, long-term changes, and they're often ones that are hard for us to see or appreciate because we live day to day, and it depends on what the weather was like today or what we think it's going to be like tomorrow, what our plans are.
We're struggling to try and understand its local effects and to also take local things that happen and to see if it's even significant at the global level. When you have like a very radical change in the weather, for example, you have very delayed winter, or you have intense amounts of rain in the summer in places where you didn't have rain, it's really tricky to say whether it's really climate change related. It's much easier to talk about in terms of a local weather pattern, right? And even like, say, a national weather pattern. But to actually struggle to figure out how it is at the level of the climate, you sometimes need time. So that's another problem with climate change, is that our knowledge doesn't quite catch up to the phenomenon at the rate it ought to. That's why we're always struggling to say, is this climate change? Well, we won't know for another 5 years.